In today's video, we will be taking an unboxing and overview of the CiT Level 2 PC case. Now this case is an M-ATX case, a Micro-ATX case, and it has tempered glass on it, on the side panel, window tempered glass side panel, and also it has mesh at the front, as well as 3 RGB fans. So without further ado, let's get into the unboxing and let's see what it's like. So here it is, our CiT Level 2 PC case. As you can see, the mesh perforated front here, as well as 2 RGB fans. It then has a tempered glass here, which isn't a full tempered glass. It actually does cut off at the PSU shroud here. But I think for most people it's going to be perfectly fine. On the back, basically it's just a solid panel, and yeah, let's just crack on and get into it basically. So as I said, 3 RGB fans, which are 120mm fans, 2 at the front, 1 at the back. Let's take off the front now so you can see those fans a bit better. Okay. So as you can see, perforated mesh at the front, so you know, pretty good for airflow. This is going to help with airflow. Like I say, it's an M-ATX case, and really this is a budget case. If I didn't say this before, this is a budget case, and it only cost me £42. So I do think for that price, it is quite an attractive case, and you know, quite a good case in that sense. Now there isn't actually filtration here in terms of like a dust filter, but again, it's a cheap case, so it is where it is. I do think the fans look okay. They're the fans where it has on the RGB on the actual fan blades themselves, rather than the sort of outside ring. Personally, I kind of prefer this, but I know some people prefer the outside ring ones. But now I'll put all the front fan configurations in terms of radiator support, as well as the front fan support at the bottom, in case I've missed this out. But from what I can tell, you can get 2 120mm fans at the front. There's no support for 3 120mm, unfortunately, and I do think there is support for 2 140mm fans as well. So basically 2 80mm fans in total, or the 240mm, but the 360 at the front doesn't look like it's possible. And to be fair, I don't think there is enough room in this case. It is a fairly small case. It is very compact. If you're doing sort of very elaborate builds, I would certainly say this case isn't suitable. But this is a system integrator case, or a system builder case. So it's really all about cheap flip case, basically, just to flip it on, hopefully make a bit of profit. Obviously, that's the idea here. Let's keep going into the case now. The top really is very simple. Again, this is a basic case, as I've said, no frills really, but you do get a bit of RGB, but mainly no frills really. There is a dust filter, which is kind of standard now, and that's okay, it does the job. Now the front fan support, again, I'll put below if I've made any mistakes here, but from what I can tell, it's 2 120mm fans at the top, or it's also 2 140mm fans at the top. Now looking at the clearance for the radiator, I don't think you're going to be able to put radiators at the top, but I'll put it below if you can. But even if you do go with a radiator at the top, you've basically got no space. So I wouldn't say radiators at the top personally, but it might be possible. Pretty standard I/O, I'd say, here for sort of a budget case. Big clicky power button. We then have, unfortunately, 1 USB 3 port, which I think is USB 3.0, but I'll put it down below, all the specifications obviously. We only have, well, unfortunately we do have 2 USB 2 ports as well, so that's really quite disappointing, but it's a budget case, so it is what it is. You know, 3 USB ports at the front is okay, but I'd rather just 2 USB 3s, but anyway. And then our headphone and microphone jack, as well as our reset button, which I believe the reset button can also be put onto the fan, so it can actually change the colour of the fans and what have you, the settings for the fans. So I believe that is, but I'll put it below if not. So again, for those that are used to kind of budget cases, you'll kind of know this sort of layout. It's very, very standard. It's the 120mm fan at the back. No support for a 140, unfortunately, but it is what it is. And that this one is an RGB fan as well. As I said, you get 3 in total. The I/O shield cutout area is obviously standard. And then we have one of those kind of, I don't like them, but they're kind of like the whole non-removable bracket thing. So once you remove them once from your PCI brackets, they're one-time snap-off ones, and you're not going to be able to use them again. But it is what it is. And then there is the little like sort of latch thing here, which if I just pull that open for you, that kind of swings back and forth, obviously, to sort of fit your graphics cards in and what have you. And then we have a PSU shroud, which you can only put the PSU facing fan down. It won't go face up. There isn't actually the mounting holes for the face up one, so you will have to mount your PSU face down for those that are normal anyway. But yeah, I just don't like the whole PSU fan up thing. I don't think it's right, but anyway, it is what it is. Now there is a dust filter on the bottom here. One of those kind of crappy ones, but I mean, well, actually that's a really crap one, but that is actually pretty bad actually. That's really thin and very, very small. That's only probably about 10 centimeters each way or something. Yeah, that's pretty small, but it does the job, and it kind of goes on a bit fiddly again, but you know, it's a budget case. You're going to get these little cutbacks and these sort of like cost reducing things that they want to do nowadays with cases, but I don't like it. But yeah, this is this is a bit fiddly. Right, so now we've actually finally got that on. Let's move on to the hard drive cage, which is actually supported by 2 screws here at the bottom. If you take these 2 screws out, then you can actually take out the hard drive cage. I'll move on to the hard drive cage in a bit later in the video, but you know, that's pretty standard for most cases nowadays to be able to remove the hard drive cage, so that's nice. And then just 4 obviously quite big feet actually, surprisingly, and they're also rubber as well, so not going to leave marks on your desk, so decent actually. For a budget case, that's not bad actually. And so we may as well go to the back panel, and in typical cheap case manufacturer tradition, the thumb screws at the back need a screwdriver to get them out, which it's how it's done by the manufacturer, I guess, but I don't like it. Just if you're putting thumb screws in, just give me thumb screws that I can actually remove, please. But yeah. Now we do actually get quite a good amount of cable ties in there, and obviously all your screws, which is nice. Let's just take that off. Now there isn't actually a RGB hub at the back, which I know some of you are going to be like, ooh, I don't like that. Michael, I don't like that at all, but I know I don't like it at all either, and I would like to see an RGB hub so you could actually easily connect other fans and what have you. But the only sort of saving grace I would say is that it is actually SATA powered, which for a cheap case, having a SATA power for the RGB fans is actually not bad, because we've seen it before with Molex, and it's a nightmare of Molex. But anyway, it is what it is. It's all kind of like daisy chained, and it's not great. But again, this is aimed at system builders, just to kind of slap something together, get it out to the customer, and move on. So it is what it is. I would say if this is your own personal PC case, it can be done with a personal PC case. But for me personally, I probably would spend more on my case. But if you're on a very tight budget and you've got, you know, 50 odd quid that you want to spend on a case, or even 40 quid even, because I think this is probably, I paid 42, but I think you can get it for about 40 or even less maybe. But yeah, you know, it's a decent option just to kind of get you up and running. But no, I mean, for most people I think they are going to want to spend more than a PC case, but it's totally down to the person. If you're on a very tight budget, then do it. So then we just have our normal sort of standard connectors. Now actually, one thing I will say is that this USB 3 header, surprisingly, isn't blued out, which I actually quite like, because I actually kind of like the whole blackout, you know, the whole blackout sort of look, the, you know, all black look, and that's actually quite nice that they've made it all black rather than the sort of, you know, sort of funny USB free blue colour. So I actually quite like that. Now we do get a USB 2 connector, which, yeah, again, let's move on from that really, but it's there to connect up USB 2 ports. And then the HD audio, and again, one thing I don't like with budget cases, they do all this kind of like ketchup and mustard kind of crap, but it is what it is, you know. Hopefully I don't get monetized for, you know, for saying that, but anyway, no, but it is what it is. Yeah, don't do ketchup and mustard, please. Just give me all black cables. But hey, then we have our power LEDs, and we have our hard drive LED, and then we got our power switch here as well. No, so actually, the reset front panel header isn't actually present, and it isn't actually there. So the reset button actually won't work as a reset. It will only work to change the fans. So you won't be able to reset your computer using that reset. And there's no override as well. So that is what it is. It's kind of labelled up oddly there because it's not actually reset, it's an LED switch. So yeah. Anyway, so at the top here we can actually fit two 2.5-inch SSDs here. And I believe that panel can actually be removed. Let's actually just do that now. So there's just one screw to take this out. Then I believe, yeah, it comes apart. So you can obviously put your your SSDs onto here, and then just knock it back onto there. Put in your screw. Job's a good 'un. Anyway, we'll leave that to the side for now. Our hard drive cage at the bottom here can fit actually two 3.5-inch hard drives, or you could obviously do one 3.5-inch with one 2.5-inch as well, or you could even go with two 2.5-inch if you really wanted to as well. And then obviously this just removes here with the screws here, and it just comes out there. Then we have our sort of like instruction manuals and stuff, which is, again, for a system builder they might want that, but or maybe if you're new to building PCs you would like that, but yeah, I think for most experienced builders you're not going to use the manual, but it's there if you need it. Now the PSU clearance up to about the hard drive cage, I'll put it below, but I think it's about 170 millimeters, which is okay. There's enough clearance there, but I think nowadays, personally, I always just, with my PC builds now, I just remove the hard drive cage because I don't see who's actually using 3.5-inch drives in this day and age. Now let's go on to one of the really negative things, and this is kind of a budget PC kind of hate of mine, but it is what it is. The cable management space, you only get about 17 millimeters, or just under 2 centimeters even, of cable management space at the back here. So yeah, if you're using very big PSU cables and the big fat ones with your PSU cables, you're going to have a nightmare basically. You really do need the flat black cables, you know, the ones which will just run down here quite nicely, sit flat against the side panel, and then you've got no problems. But yeah, if you do get this case, just be very wary of what PSU you're going to use, because you haven't got much room there at all. I can literally just about get my finger in that, and yeah, there's no space. But it is what it is. Budget cases kind of always have these problems, and this is absolutely, like I say, about as budget as you can possibly get. So it is what it is, and I probably can make it work when I eventually do get round to doing a PC build in this, but it's not great, and it's the one downside, but it is what it is. So the tempered glass comes out with 4 screws, the 4 thumb screws, and these actually do come off with your thumbs, so that's obviously a nice thing to have. But yeah, it's, like I say, it is a shortened tempered glass. As you can see there, it's very shortened because of the PSU shroud there. And obviously this is a cost saving measure, but I actually kind of like it as well. I've seen it with the MSI cases and stuff, and I actually think it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. If they're going to save a bit of money, you never, at this part, you're never going to see anyway. So, you know, the glass would just come over this part, and you'd have the back of the PSU shroud anyway, so I don't see the problem with that. Now the PSU shroud actually is fully closed off as well, so this is obviously great if you're using one of those budget PSUs, which you're probably going to be using if you're going to go with a budget case. So it's great that that's all blacked out there and all blocked off. So we have 6 pre-applied standoffs here, if I can just kind of get the angles right here. 6 pre-applied for your Micro-ATX board, or obviously if you want to go ITX you could, but I would say just stick with Micro-ATX personally. And obviously if you've got more screws, there are more screws in the bags and more standoffs in the bag, so you can obviously put like an 8 screw motherboard in there instead and what have you, so don't worry about that. Now looking at the bottom of the PSU strap, it does look like you can actually fit 2 120mm fans there as well, which is obviously kind of a bit of a bonus, but I'd say probably just don't do that, but it's up to you. You could do that if you really wanted to, but it does look like there's space in there, but I'll put it below if I'm wrong. Now in terms of your clearances, the CPU cooler clearance is 175mm or 17.5 centimeters, so more or less every single CPU cooler will actually fit in this case, which is really nice actually. And then for your graphics card support, it's actually 330mm or 33 centimeters, and that again is going to fit more or less any single graphics card that you can actually think in this case. So in terms of that side, I think they've really done a good job with this case in terms of the clearances and what have you. And it is a very small case, but there is actually quite a lot of room in here. And obviously the drives are maybe a little bit limited, but I think for modern cases nowadays, having less drive space with more space for your graphics cards and your CPU coolers and what have you, that's kind of the way we're going now with PC building, because obviously it's all M.2 drives now. So I think they've made the right decision here. So yes, if there's anything else that I've missed with this case, I'll put it below if there's any other details, but I think I've covered all the details there as well as I possibly can. If you've got any details you want to know and you want anything more to know about, anything more about this case, then obviously drop that comment below and I will obviously try my best to answer you. And if you did like this video, please leave a like. Please think about subscribing if you want to, and I will see you guys in the next one. You know the drill. Bye guys.